Hello, and welcome to another episode of GPDTV. My name is Graham Glover, the Public Information Officer for the Gainesville Police Department. In this episode, we will be addressing the recent rise in gun violence in our community and the Gainesville Police Department's response to it and our initiative called One Community. We hope our viewers take this message to heart and work alongside us to address this senseless violence. This is not just a law enforcement issue, this is a community issue.
We talk about one community, and it really is about recreating the village. In that village, everybody was concerned about everybody. If you didn't have milk, you can go down to the next person's house and say, hey, could you send me some milk or send me some rice or whatever it was that was the need. And over time, we've lost that village. We lost the village and we became silos. But we gotta return back to that village.
I was born and raised in Liberty City in Miami, Florida. I grew up in a very challenging environment, a violent environment. And through God's grace, I ended up at the University of Florida. It was a choice between Florida, Florida State, and FAMU. And I took Florida. Yeah, you know, the thing with Gainesville that really surprised me when I got here in '73 is walking down the street. I never will forget this on campus, and passing people and they go, how you doing? Good morning. You know, and I'm thinking in my mind, are they in my class and I just not recognize them? And it wasn't until really months later that I realized everyone here speaks when they pass by people. You know, they go, how you doing? Hello. In Miami, you don't do that. That'll get you mugged and or beat up.
Gainesville has been a pretty peaceful community. Over the years, we have seen the ebbs and flows of drugs and violence, but not to this magnitude. And most recently, over the past few years, we've seen a very high rise in crime and in gun violence. And being a part of this community, quite honestly, I never thought that I would see this type of violence in our peaceful city. We
have 15-year-old kids out in environments and there's gunplay. Your child in that environment is possibly going to get hurt and or killed. And we got to be better than that.
This is happening all over the state, all over the country, as a matter of fact.
It's a growing problem for law enforcement officers in north central Florida. The Marion County Sheriff's Office is dealing with another shooting.
Shots rang out
You watch the news and you get the story. You look on Facebook, you read the story. Thursdays you read in the obituaries and you see these young people that are dying senseless deaths. And for me, it was always about, we hear from everyone else, but when are we going to hear from the church? Because at some point, no matter what happens, it's going to involve a church somewhere because a family member is connected or they need a place to have the service. And so we're seeing people rolled into our church. We're seeing them rolled out of our church. Where are we in the community? I really believe that it's time for us to get back out in the streets and help deal with these hard situations. It's one thing for us to preach about it on Sunday. We want to change the streets, then we've got to be in the street. We've got to be a part of the solution, because if we're not a part of the solution, then we're part of the problem.
I am very moved in a sad way when I hear of the gun violence in the particular families, because most of them, I know the families. I took it personal. You know, what can I do?
I've had two brothers that were shot and killed in the streets of Miami. And I had to tell my mom my first brother's murder, you know, and I received the call on the telephone. And probably one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do, and something I'll never forget. But I know that sting, you know, that impact, and that's why it's personal with me.
It really hits home because I have nephews, I have nieces. This could have easily happened to one of them.
My nephew, Tyler, was gunned down in Tampa. I presided over his service. It's different seeing a young person in the prime of their life cut down because of something as senseless as gun violence. It's a pain of a thing that helps us, that pushes us into our purpose. It's one thing to talk about gun violence, but it's another thing to talk about where they're getting guns.
A lot of these weapons can be traced back to them being stolen out of unlocked vehicles.
It's amazing to me that we have grown adults that purchase guns and leave them in unlocked cars. And the kids literally walk through the neighborhoods like they're shopping, try the door handles, the door opens, they go inside, search, and they find these guns. Now, any responsible adult needs to know that that gun can be used to take somebody else's life, maybe theirs or a relative of theirs, and how they're going to feel when that comes about. And so we take pains to try to relate to our neighbors. Lock your car. And please don't leave a gun in it. But if you do, lock the car and secure the weapon.
Get some people together, and you can no longer just kind of stand back saying somebody's got to do something. You got to be somebody to do this. I reached out to a pastor friend of mine, Pastor Feathers, and to Chief Scott, and invited some other folk to the table.
And so when one community approached me about what they were trying to do, there was just something that quickened in my spirit to say, yes, this is where I need to go.
Chief Scott was very instrumental in keeping us focused, because the one thing he said when he first sat down at the table, that if we're not going to do anything, then let me know, because I don't want to just meet to meet. And the vow that I made to him and we made to each other, that we are going to see this through, whether it's with you and I or it's with a table full of people, but we're going to see this through.
I'm thinking when you look at even military operations, they teach you divide and conquer. Well, in this country right now, we're so divided that we're subject to be conquered. So we need to pull that away, pull that veneer off, and realize that, you know what? You have family that you want to see live and walk around the streets and be safe. You have children, you have friends. How do you feel when one of those people get hurt or killed or threatened? Don't wait until it's your family. Do it now.
How many more have to be rolled out before we say enough is enough?
Who's teaching conflict resolution to our children?
The gun takes the place of communication. I don't have to discuss it. I just shoot you and then everything is over.
Our young people need is not just another hope speech, not just another dream, but they need some reality. Show me, because you can tell me you're going to do something, but I'm looking for results.
Car burglaries are the #1 crime in the city of Gainesville. GPD asks all of our neighbors to lock your doors, to keep your valuables out of sight. If your wallet, your keys, or a firearm are left in sight in your car, the chances of your car being burglarized increase exponentially. Help reduce this crime in the city of Gainesville by keeping your valuables out of sight, locking your vehicles, and taking your keys inside. With these simple steps, you can avoid becoming a victim of the #1 crime in the city of Gainesville, car burglaries. GPD would like to remind our neighbors to never drink and drive. Drinking and driving is not a victimless crime. With access to taxi services and car ride services at your fingertips, such as Uber and Lyft, you should never get behind a vehicle if you've had too much to drink. Help GPD reduce the number of traffic homicides occurring in our city. Always have a designated driver or a plan to contact a taxi or a car ride service.
We're putting in much effort on the prevention side as we do in the apprehension side. We'd rather stop the crime from ever occurring than to have to go out and try to arrest someone after it's occurred, because we can't get that life back once it's gone.
Our kids don't value life like they're supposed to. But of course, that means that they don't value their own lives. And there are many who will, pull out a gun because they don't care what happens to them. I don't know where that came from.
This thought of jail, I've heard someone say, oh, I can do 2 years. Well, I can't do 2 years. I'm not doing 2 days. And so it's trying to erase that stigma, trying to erase that thought.
And they don't understand how to resolve a conflict and then what's worth fighting over. You hear I was disrespected. And that's why, I did. Well, you have to have enough self-respect to not resort to violence.
In order to feel powerful, they needed to pull out a weapon. And that's what happens when you have a gun. It makes you feel more powerful than the next man. And I feel like maybe they have not felt that way growing up. And somehow or another, it doesn't even click with them that, that a lot of people will be affected by it.
Who's teaching conflict resolution to our children? If you think the best way to resolve a conflict is to get a gun.
The gun takes the place of communication. I don't have to discuss it. I just shoot you and then everything is over. But there was a time we needed to talk to people and talk out what's wrong. And kids nowadays have a hard time doing that.
You used to have to worry about who they physically encountered. Now you have to worry about the virtual aspects of it. The aspects of someone getting access to your kid through social media, through a cell phone. We can go on the internet now and show you photos of 13, 14-year-old kids that are taking pictures with wads of money and guns. How can a 14, 15-year-old kid do that? But you need to pay attention to what your child is doing on the internet. That is causing some of the proliferation, quite frankly, of violent crime, and that's a problem.
It's going to take the parent to do that. And the parent has to be strong enough to run that house.
We were asking, why do people get involved with gangs? Why are young people doing what they're doing? There was a young lady that stood up and she made a statement. She said that I grew up without my father. And I think that if my father had been in my life, I think I would have made some different choices.
Some of them have no one that's going to watch over them and keep them safe, but that one parent. So what can we as a community do to help that one parent? Don't wait until it's too late. Be passionate about it. Look at your child and say, if something happened to my child, and I didn't do anything to try to change this, you see people out on the street with guns and you never pick up the telephone and call us? Your child has a gun and you don't try to do something to stop that from occurring? Where's he or she going that they feel like they need a gun? What kind of environment are they in? Can you as a parent change that environment?
You still have a responsibility to your kids, not just financially. You have a responsibility to be there, to nurture them, to take care of them. On the other hand, if we don't have someone in our life to teach us how to be a father, how do I be something that I've never been taught to be? How do I become something that I've never had any nurturing to become?
Nowadays, we have a lot of children who don't have mentors, who don't have coaches who can lead and guide them, talk to them all the time. Whenever they need to talk, they're right there.
Speaking with the parents, bringing everybody in as a group and talking to them and having all of the resources at the table is a great and unique way of dealing with this.
What would it take for you to come out of this situation? And then when I tell you, I don't want you to do this anymore, and you say, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore, well, now there's this gap. Well, what are you going to do with me to fill this gap? because I've been used to doing this when I get out of school. And we're rightfully so, we should be saying, put down the guns. But pick up what? How important is goals in your life? What are your goals for your life? Where do you see yourself, not in 5 years, where do you see yourself in the next 30 days? The entire goal is to introduce our young people, to give them exposure to things that they don't normally see. If you show me more than what I see, then I become more and I see what I can be.
I mean, we have to realize that it's every adult's responsibility to be involved now.
Our young people need is not just another hope speech, not just another dream, but they need some reality. Show me, because you can tell me you're going to do something, but I'm looking for results.
Show some investment in your child. Show some willingness to get involved in saving your child's life while they're alive. It won't do your child a whole bit of good when they're gone.
Look, I'm just gonna go over there and see what I gotta do, all right?
You're acting like you're the only one that has been bullied. I've been bullied, but there are better ways to cope with it than joining a gang.
Like
Are you
what,
serious?
Sierra?
Like going to school and getting yourself an education.
Oh, he got a gun. He got a gun. He ain't gonna do nothing with a gun. He ain't gonna do nothing with a gun.
If you receive a suspicious email, text message, or phone call asking for money or personal information relating to utility bills, tax bills, COVID relief money, or other similar financial matters, please contact the GPD front desk at 352-393-7500 and ask to speak to our fraud department, or visit the Federal Trade Commission website where you can file a claim. Remain vigilant and proactive so that you do not become a victim of a financial scam. GPD would like to remind our neighbors to never drink and drive. Drinking and driving is not a victimless crime. With access to taxi services and car ride services at your fingertips, such as Uber and Lyft, you should never get behind a vehicle if you've had too much to drink. Help GPD reduce the number of traffic homicides occurring in our city. Always have a designated driver or a plan to contact a taxi or a car ride service.
My name is Ramona Jackson, and I am a financial coach with my own business, Financial Sense LLC, and I also write, direct plays as a passion. You know, you live in a community every day, you hear what's going on, and you have a lot of people that talk about it. I just didn't want to be one of those people that spoke, but actually be a part of the change. So I have the opportunity to serve on the board here at the Star Center, and I went to a meeting just as a representative, not looking to do anything but to see how we can play a part. And once I heard the concept of what they wanted to do, in my head I was sitting thinking, oh, this might be really good. And when they told me they wanted to move to a dramatic type of presentation, because, you know, movie gets a person's attention, music gets it. If you can grab their attention in another form as opposed to just speaking to them, the message resonates a lot better. So they told me the concept, and as I was sitting in the meeting, the entire concept of the play came to my head.
Look, I'm just gonna go over there and see what I gotta do, all right?
You're acting like you're the only one that has been bullied. I've been bullied, but there are better ways to cope with it than joining a gang. Are
Like
you
what,
serious?
Sierra?
Like going to school and getting yourself an education.
Look, I'm not going to school, all right? Simple as that, all right? You got it?
It's simple as that. You know you can get in trouble for that, right?
I don't care no more, Sierra.
You can lose your life, Josh.
I don't care, Sierra.
You should care.
You know, we hear it all the time, and it gets to a point where you really don't even want to listen to the news every day because of the simple fact that, okay, so what's going to happen today? Or if you open up Facebook, there's always a rest in peace. And it's becoming more frequent in the ages of like 13 to 17, where you have young people that are dealing with different issues, and the way that they're choosing to resolve it is ending in a life ending. We have kids that are on the corners that are choosing to take guns to school because they're bullied They have no other option. They don't have any alternatives or no one at home or no big sister, big brother, or someone that really wants to hear the cry. So when you see that, and it's a call to action.
Oh, he got a gun. He got a gun. He ain't gonna do nothing with a gun. He ain't gonna do nothing with a gun.
I'm about to change your life. 3, 2, 1.
This program, Who's in the Box, was a play, a dramatization of a person that ended up committing a gun crime. And what were the consequences of that? Trying to do is get some of the kids in the community, the people in the community, to realize when you commit this type of act, you know, the impact you're gonna have on the victim family and quite frankly on your family.
He don't deserve 20 years, that's my baby! 20 years? Really, 20 years? That is too much!
The Star Center Theater is like a gym, and to be able to have an outlet like this in the community, that when people come in, they see what the community is on stage. It represents the community in which it serves. The young people that were used in the play, I was so proud of how they were able to tackle a subject that is hard and tough and be able to relay that in front of an audience of their peers on the first instance, and then to adults to say like, hey, this is what we deal with day by day. And they took it and they ran with it and they really committed. I'm all about self-love. Love yourself. And if you love yourself, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, and you won't even try to fit into another box because you are enough. So be yourself, love who you are totally, and know that there are options and there are people waiting to help you to make the right decisions and to hold your arms up in those times when you feel like you're by yourself, because you're not alone.
We wanted to impact the community in such a way to let them know what the journey is when you make that decision. And to end up coming to a funeral, and of course we had people there who had actually lost loved ones to gun violence and who spoke about that. And people viewed the casket and realized that it was not a person in the box, but they saw their reflection in the box. In the back of the church, we had people who were set up as grief counselors. There were about 15 resources back there for them to take advantage of, to let them know that they don't have to stay in the same situation that they're in, that there's help for them, and these are the resources that you can go to.
There's so much help out there. There's so many programs, so many resources out there for you, that the last thing you should be thinking about is grabbing a gun to solve a problem.
I really do see our project becoming a model of how community works along with law enforcement, how community works along with the church, how community works along with the education, how community works along with mental health, how community works along with unemployment. We're not just focusing on ending this problem in our community. We're talking about ending this problem, addressing this problem in other communities.
Everything that you could think of that could divide us is being used right now to divide us. But we don't think about the things that unite us. The fact that we all want our children to grow up in a safe environment. That's one thing, should be the most powerful thing that we think of, that causes us all to have the same goal, to keep our children safe.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this episode of GPDTV. Together, we can end the violence in our community and empower our neighborhoods, one child, one family, one community at a time.